I think all of us in the coral reef hobby want that perfect reef tank in our living room. We want it to be abundant with life, fish and corals and anemones, shrimps and crabs, and anything else that you can imagine. But in order to be successful with what you can see, you need to focus on what you can't see. It's important to understand what we add to our tanks. And I'm not talking about RODI water. I'm not talking about salt mix. I'm not talking about your trace elements. I'm not talking about your dosing schedule. I'm not talking about any of that, although an extremely important and a critical step in a reef tank. What I want to focus on in these episodes is creating a great environment at a low level, and not with what we put in our tank on a regular basis, but what we can put in our tank today that'll help it survive for years and years and years to come. I'm talking about pods and macroalgae and, of course, live rock and the necessary biodiversity that comes with it. You need all of those things to have a great long term, low maintenance reef tank. What I want to do is build a system where we can grow our macroalgae, cultivate our pods, and we can create and nurture the best live rock there is. I've been in this hobby a long time, but I don't agree with the current trend of using base rock, Marco rock, dried rocks, bleached rocks, acid dipped rocks, and on and on. Yes, it has its benefits for sure, and everybody's looking to avoid pests in their aquarium. But I think we've gone too far trying to prevent issues, and this is creating many more issues. We start with dead rock, add some bottled bacteria on our tank cycle. Early on, we think success. We add some corals, but first dip them to remove anything that could be introduced into our tanks. We're working too hard to create a sterile environment. Then the uglies come dinos, cyano, algae, etc. We then add more bacteria, more pods, more phyto, and on and on. Even with all that, we're only creating a very limited biodiversity in our aquarium. What I want to do in these episodes is culture a very biodiverse live rock naturally, grow our macroalgae for nutrient export, and grow large amounts of pods to help break down detritus and keep our rock clean. We're going to do all this in a system outside of our display tank and sump, a simple rack system that, once ready, can create a biodiverse aquarium that will skip many of the unnecessary headaches along the way. By working in this controlled environment, we can avoid issues in our display tanks. We'll start with dead base rock and create live rock out of it. We'll get a small amount of ocean rock. We're not looking for a ton, just enough to seed a significant portion of base rock. We'll monitor this ocean rock closely to make sure it doesn't have some of the unwanted pests. Once we're happy with what we'll see, we'll introduce large amounts of dead rocks to the system. While that's happening, we'll also build a pod and macroalgae system to grow large numbers of pods to keep our rocks clean and our fish fed. And lastly, our macroalgae will be growing and doing its job as a nutrient exporter. When ready, we'll combine these systems to create a well established, biodiverse ecosystem that will be as close to the ocean as we can be. We hope you stick around and follow this journey with us. And remember to please like and follow.